Before going into the topic details, I want to bring your attention to the UPSC coaching programs offered by ClearIAS. ClearIAS offers online and offline courses to help candidates get selected for prestigious government services like IAS, IPS, or IFS. ClearIAS Prelims Cum Mains (PCM) course provides a highly effective study plan, well-organized subject-wise videos, study materials, mock exams, and guidance to cover the entire GS syllabus of UPSC CSE prelims, mains, and interview systematically. As a limited period offer, there is a 40% discount on our online courses. Enroll now.
The topic is particularly vulnerable tribal groups, the PVTGs. There was definitely a question asked in the one of the recent prelims actually. They asked about 2 or 3 different statements and asked a direct question. So this particular topic is always in the news, and we can definitely expect question. There is nothing like UPSC will not repeat questions. They definitely repeated questions on hydrogen on consecutive years actually, and they will definitely when you look at the UPSC prelims question paper in the last 10 years, there are n number of repeated questions from the very same small topic. They continuously repeat questions in one or other way. So there is nothing like non-repeating question. They will definitely repeat questions. And in the mains perspective also, in GS paper 2, for example, when the development things are actually carried out, all the vulnerable people, how they are actually, what kind of problems they are actually facing in India, these kind of things are there. So in different perspectives, we can actually study the topic of tribals and especially the PVTGs, the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. What is the current affair event? One particular group of PVTGs, that is the Juang tribes, they are actually having in Odisha actually, in Odisha that is called Jajpur. So Jajpur, Odisha, they get habitat rights under Forest Rights Act. So Forest Rights Act is there from 2006. So my point is, this act is called the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Right Act 2006. So it's a very huge act. It has to be dealt in a very separate section. So what I'm trying to do is that we'll understand what this particular concept is, what is the current affair event. We will understand what this PVTG is also. So when in future maybe definitely there will be one or other events happening. So the next time we'll be dealing with the Forest Right Act. So 2 things, PVTGs and Forest Right Act. We're dealing with PVTGs in this particular session. So just know that it is not just for the scheduled tribes, it is the Forest Rights Act. So rights are actually given to certain kind of people. What kind of people? Scheduled tribes is one category and other traditional forest dwellers. So there are other people who are forest dwellers. So these kind of people who are not that, they included in the scheduled tribes also. There may be some other non-tribes also who may or may not be residing near to the forest areas, who may be dependent on the forest for different kind of minor forest producers, etc., such as honey, such as wood, etc. So these kind of people are also included in the particular act, and for them certain kinds of rights are actually accorded to them, that are called forest rights. So that is why this act is called Forest Rights Act, that is of 2006. And let me also remind you that particular time, 2006-2005 time, that was an important time for a lot of legislation. For example, Right to Information Act, Forest Rights Act, National Green Tribunal types, all those things are actually coming in this particular category. Establishing all these things are coming in that particular time period. So it is a very huge time period. Lot of different good legislations actually came in that particular time. So now let's look at this particular topic, that is who all are actually having forest rights, that is habitation rights under the Forest Rights Act. So the tribals which are actually in the news recently are the Juangs. We just mentioned that they are from Jajpur, and then Pauri Bhuyas, both are actually from Odisha. They have this thing called habitation rights. And then Bariya tribes that are from Madhya Pradesh, they also have. Then Kamos and Baigas, they are from Chhattisgarh. They also have habitation rights under Forest Rights Act. So just know that only these tribal groups, the PVTGs, among the PVTGs, they are actually accorded habitation rights. The decision to give them the habitation rights were already taken. There were news coming from 2023 that they will be given rights, but there is actually something called the district administration, not the collector level thing. The district level actually authorities are there to deal with this particular thing. District committees are there, and all these committees are the final say in this particular regard. And finally, they have decided to give habitation rights to Zhuangs also. So that is the current affair topic, and these are the different other tribes which enjoy such habitation rights under Forest Rights Act. Basically, what do you mean by habitation rights? You have the right to access that particular region. You have the right to take certain kinds of minor forest produces, just like I said, honey, etc., resins, wax, etc. These kind of things, they can actually take it from them. So they can depend and they can exploit the forest on a sustainable manner, and that is what this particular thing called habitation rights. To live sustainably in relation with the forest, actually, they groups are actually doing that. So they are actually accorded the particular rights under Forest Rights Act. Now the important thing we have to do from this thing is that the next thing is what are this group of people called PVTGs. So that is the important thing we have to understand. Of course, there are tribal groups. There are a lot of tribals in India. Different kinds of tribal populations are definitely there in India, and we know that there is somewhere around 705 different tribal communities in India, and from that 700 tribal communities, there is definitely a lot of important allocations for the different tribal groups. For example, reservation, different kinds of schemes are there, different kinds of funds are actually allocated to them. A lot of things are definitely happening. But just like any other case, there will be some groups which will be more powerful, some groups will be more influential. So they will be getting more amount of funds, they will be getting more amount of benefits coming from the government. So there are actually some tribal groups which are actually in a disadvantaged position. They are more vulnerable, and they need more care, they need more focus. That is the concept of what is called as the PVTGs. That is the more vulnerable people who may be living in some of the remote areas and all, who may not be having access to the health, education, and who may be malnutrition also. Nutrition food may not be given to us. So those kind of people, they actually has to be taken care of. That extra focus has to be there. So we have said that we have to also mention about the 1973, there was a commission that is called Debar Commission. So there were definitely at least 4 or 5 commissions in the very particular topic of scheduled tribes and their welfare. But we have to mention Debar Commission in 1973. He actually assessed and analyzed the particular situation. He suggested that there should be some extra focus to some particular groups of tribals, and that is how the PVTGs were actually established in 1975. The total number of PVTGs established in 1975 was 52. The next thing is, what about the current situation? And the recent update is that after the update in 2006, the current number of PVTGs is actually 75. So from 52 in 1975, we are actually having 75 PVTGs currently, and that update was happened in 2006. So from the 705 tribal groups, 75 are considered PVTGs. That number was asked in the prelims exam. Out of the 2 or 3 different statements, one was the number. So that is actually important, and they are spread across different states. Not every states in India has PVTGs actually. They are spread across the 18 states and different union territories according to the 2011 census. And let me ask you, which state may be having the highest number of tribal population? Odisha. So make sure that it is actually Odisha which is actually having the highest number of tribal population. That also has to be kept in mind. And the last thing we have to do in this particular topic is, what are the different criteria for a tribal group to be declared as a PVTG? There are different 705 tribal groups, right? But not all tribal groups are getting the criteria becoming the PVTGs. So what all criteria has to be satisfied for them to become a member of PVTG community? That is a particularly vulnerable tribal group community. So there are 4 criteria, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what is the 4th criteria are technology, literacy, economy and population. So what technology we are actually looking at? We are actually looking at if they are actually having pre-agricultural level technologies. The concept mean by them is that they are not having any kind of technologies, no modern technologies reach them, no kind of technological innovations has reached them. They are still going with them traditional kind of things. That is actually called pre-agricultural level technologies. So if they are having pre-agricultural level of technologies, one condition is actually satisfied. Literacy, that is very simple thing, that is actually extremely low. If their literacy rate is actually extremely low, then they can be considered as it is actually to an extent is subjective also. We cannot actually list out who is actually literate, what is the exact number. So when you go for a survey, when we feel that yes, that community is actually not that much literate, that their access to education is less, so yes, we can actually classify them. So it is a somewhat subjective criteria also. So literacy is one thing. The next thing is economy. So economy is actually in the subsistence level. Economy is actually in the subsistence level. What do you mean by subsistence in India? If I am doing subsistence economy, or if I am doing subsistence,
not for profit.
Yes, exactly. Very basic level. That is, I am actually doing kind of farming in which I get the produce, I eat it. I am only getting produce only enough for me to eat. I'll just survive. I may not be able to sell it in the market. I may not have enough produce to sell it in the market also. There is no other benefits, no economic benefit. Only the thing which is actually required to survive. That is actually called subsistence. So their economy is actually on a subsistence level. That is the point. So then they can also be classified that. And the last thing is actually population. So the population is, if the population is either declining or if the population is stagnant, then also these are the three conditions or criteria, 4 conditions, that has to be satisfied for a group to be classified as a PVTG. If their population is either stagnant or if it is declining, right? India is definitely, the population is definitely exploding, growing, that is all right. But there are certain communities which are actually not having a favorable things in the particular type of population. They are either declining or stagnant. For example, the Parsi population. I don't know if you have heard about this particular scheme. There is something called Geo-Parsi scheme. So there is a Geo-Parsi scheme, which is a central government institutionalized scheme actually. And one of the intentions behind this particular scheme is because the population is actually dwindling. It is very stagnant. They're not having, all including our own favorite Ratan Tata, all the family, all these kind of Parsi people, the lineage is actually kind of stagnant, the population is stagnant. So this particular scheme actually focuses on the welfare of the Parsi people. So just like that, there are certain populations in the tribal groups also which are declining or either declining or stagnant. So these 4 criteria come together for a tribal group for them to be declared as a PVTG. I hope these criteria has to be understood. This is a very important thing, the criteria.